everybody. Welcome back to boomxbeautybeat. It's Laura here, and we have got just a wonderful topic today. I'm here with Corinne Underwood, and she is founder of Choices for Sexual Health. So this should be scoopy, you guys. And she also owns an additional business called Blissphoria. Okay. And Corinne is a certified sexual wellness coach, practitioner, it's a mouthful, and a sexual health educator. And I'm super excited because I'm Italian. I come from the Catholic upbringing. We weren't told nothing. Everything we got from our girlfriends who also knew very little. So I have so many questions for her. I'm going to probably exhaust her some more. And
I love it.
Thank you for being here, Corinne. Welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
What an amazing career path for you. I want to start with you just kind of figuring out how you got started. How did this all begin for you and make the decision to do this as your career?
Well, my desire to change the world, sexually speaking, started, believe it or not, at 10, which is a year younger than what my daughter is now. And really what that came out of was the fact that I had absolutely no support when I went through puberty. And my body was changing. I was super scared. When I started menstruating, I actually thought I was bleeding from the inside out. I didn't know it was my period. I was bullied for my body changing. I played on the national tennis team, and there was a lot of emphasis put on body image. And so bullying occurred not only from my peers, but also from my sports coaches and other adults in my life. So it was a very traumatic time, but I was really invested in learning about my body and other people's bodies. And then we didn't have access to the internet. I only had access to a sex radio show. And that's literally at 10, I would lie in bed at night when my parents thought I was sleeping, and I listened and learned as much as I could. And that was the starting point for me, very much so.
Wouldn't happen to be Dr. Ruth, would it?
It was partially Dr. Ruth.
Okay. Yeah. We all were like, ooh, Sundays. Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And, let's be honest, at 10, I was pretty clueless to what some of the wording was and all that. But that's really what piqued my interest. And it was really the desire to get to know my body inside and out. And that learning hasn't stopped. And now I'm almost 49, and there's even more learning because I'm going into a different stage of my life. But my greatest goal is really to be an advocate for predominantly women. I do work with men and couples, but I feel that for the most part, women are marginalized. We don't have a platform to honestly and from a supportive format to express our sexuality in ways that feel good to us and move our body and give ourselves permission and to heal from trauma. So that is really my goal, is so that we can thrive and live orgasmically.
Yes. Woo. Yes. Okay. Well, I can't wait to keep going. I just have to say, like, my family, my father's Italian, but my mom was kind of a free spirit, like really wild. And she embarrassed me into prudishness. Like, she made me feel embarrassed. So it can even go both ways. If you've got someone too open, it can make you more closed up. So, geez, it's really a complicated little thing. So that's how you got started. When did you start making this your career path? Like, where did that come in?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So from a professional standpoint, initially, I have a background in psychology and nutrition, and I was working in that field. And then my work did take me overseas, and I started a women's collective in Nepal that was focused around menstrual health and well-being. As some of you may know, in lots of countries in the world, there's a lot of shame and stigma still around menstruation and menopause, different stages of life. So that was a lot of the work that I did, and that it grew over time. But it wasn't truly until after I gave birth to my daughter that I decided to really follow what I wanted to do in terms of changing the world, because I saw this being in front of me. And I wanted her, and still do, to have an environment in which she can be open and honest and learn and really thrive as a being, which includes sexuality. And so that's really when it started. And so I went back to school. I studied at a number of institutes around the world. So my background is not only as a certified coach and educator, but I have a background in Tantra and sacred sexuality and many different disciplines to give people a real broad range of what sexuality is. And it's constantly growing. And now I'm placing a lot of emphasis as well on a stage in life that we don't talk enough about, which is menopause and the changes in libido and desire and everything that happens in our body during menopause, and to really help women still be amazing sexual beings, literally until the day they die. So
oh my, how did you know I had this in my notes? I'm like, ask her about. Okay, so, let's start with what are there, I know it's going to vary with age, but what are some common issues that many women have?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, is just the insecurity around knowing really what they want and really how to get it. That's number one. And it's the fear that stands in the way. It's the lack of education. It's conditioning that stands in the way. And also how to navigate through embodying our pleasure and honoring our bodies in a relationship. And there's a commonality that there's like, we should do this and we need to get to an endpoint, rather than the nourishing of each other's pleasure in a consensual format. So that's a big one. And then add into that past traumas, and also the change in hormones that at every age and stage we have, that is combated also by stress, also by depression and being now cocooned. And so how do we navigate through libido and changes in desire, and yet still feel like a sexual being?
Right. Woof. All of that is so important. They have all kinds of new terms now that have come up, like demisexual. Is that one? Yes. Demisexual, where the person can only engage if they feel emotionally connected. Something to that. Is that familiar to you?
I just sort of started hearing about that. Yeah, that's a very new term. Need to delve a little bit deeper into that one. But yeah, there's lots of terminology that is coming into the realm these days. Really what it comes down to is just truly honoring who you are as a holistic being.
Yes. Gotcha. So when you get a client looking you up, calling you up, is there a pattern? Do you see a pattern of what they keep, coming to see you for, or is it just all over the place?
It does vary a little bit dependent on sort of the age and stage, but I tend to find the commonality is either someone that is not, well, one is that they're in a relationship, they've reached a point in their life, either there's a breakdown in the sexual relationship, or they just reached a point in their life that they want more. They're not too sure what it is, how to get there, but they want more.
Right.
And then also there's others that have had trauma, and it has stood in the way of their sexuality, and they're at a place in their life, emotionally, mentally, and physically, that they want to heal that so that they can really start to feel pleasure in a different format.
When you are saying trauma, are you referring just strictly to some sort of like abuse, sexual abuse, or could it be any kind of trauma?
Yeah, it's a great question. Trauma, the way I kind of talk about trauma is we can have a major life event such as abuse, physical, emotional, or sexual, or a major car accident or something like that. Or we can have, like everyone has over the course of their lifetime, I call them microaggressions. And these are things, experiences in our life that we haven't had full voice and choice over, full autonomy over our decision making. And they actually create little imprints on our cellular system. And what that does over time is that we then go into this fight or flight response without really knowing why, right?
Yeah.
And that affects our ability to receive and give pleasure. And so it's really getting down to the heart of that through body-based exercises to rewire so that we can feel sensation again.
Oh boy. I'm a case, I tell you. I've got fibromyalgia, now bipolar disorder, and that came like in my age 46 and later. So all like what you're saying, everybody goes through so many things in life, and they take on that stress differently, I guess. But my gosh, what a job to have to rewire all that, because it sure gets built up in there and things start going haywire in your system. And then seems like your sexual needs come last a lot of times, because everything else is just trying to get through your doggone day. Who's even thinking of it like anymore? Because you're just so stressed out,
Absolutely. Our nervous systems are so overloaded at that point.
Yeah. And you also touch on helping parents with their kids and their understanding. Oh my God, when I talk to my kids when they were younger, they're like, university age now, but when they were younger, I remember sitting them down and going, okay, like I'm freaking out, trying to and I was a single mom, I'm trying. And they're like, Mom, please don't even, we know everything already. It's like, they were hard. They were just making me feel like such a geek, really, for trying. And I feel bad because my son ended up having a male partner in his life in the end. We all kind of knew when he was little, sort of we didn't want to assume he was sort of pansexual for a while and then later, but my daughter and I were talking, we're like, yeah, it was pretty obvious from 6 or 7 years old which way he was going to go. And I couldn't talk to him about it because he didn't really understand himself at that, even at age 12, 13, he didn't understand what he was thinking at that age. So what a topic to have to handle with your kids. Ooh, where do the parents start with something like that? Yikes.
Well, and this is why I really wanted to help parents, because it is the most difficult thing. We as parents, there's so many things that we're dealing with, but this particularly, because not only is this so vitally important for our overall well-being, but we're also bringing in our own conditions to it, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, it's really supporting them with the language to use that's age appropriate. How to integrate it into everyday experiences. So different than the talk that we all know probably didn't work really well for us. It's having consistency over time through every stage and age of life in everyday conversations. So I'll give you a perfect example. With our younger kids, we're in the grocery store lineup and there's magazines on the rack. Right. And so when we get to the car, maybe in the grocery store lineup, we're looking at the magazine with our kid. And when we get to the car, we bring up, what did you think about the image on the front of the magazine? Do you think those bodies are real bodies or are they airbrushed? Start talking about body image, start talking about everyday bodies. When you're watching a television show with your child and there's a same-sex couple, let's talk about the different types of families. If we hear some wording on a podcast or, on TikTok, bring it up with your kids. How does that make you feel? What have you heard on the schoolyard? What do people say to one another? Get curious, having relevant everyday conversations. And the other thing that is so important is that kids, although you're your parent, and of course you're going to have a loving relationship, they also want to see you as somebody that's actually relevant and cool. Right? Get up to speed on what they're watching and become their champion. And a part of doing that as well is sharing your experiences as a kid with them. So one of the one of the conversations I had, my daughter's now 11, and I had this a number of years ago with her, is When I went through puberty at 9, it was tough. I grew breasts. I had blood coming out of me and I didn't know what it was. Like sharing those things, she sees me in a totally different light. Yeah, I'm a sexual health educator, but I'm also a mom that's open and honest, and I'm vulnerable. And that is so important with your kids.
That's such great advice. Wow. So you should write a book on just how to talk to your kids.
I would love to do. I'm thinking of that actually.
That would be a really, really good book. I'll tell you. I don't know if I've seen anything out there. There might be, but not anything that I've heard about.
That's a great idea.
Well, let's talk about menopause then a little bit, because I'm 50 and I'm ready. Let's hear it, because it is like, I have just started really doing the flashes, like the hot flashes over the last few months. I had a hysterectomy several years ago, and because I had such terrible, cycles and migraines, and it was just brutal. I had PMDD, all that stuff. I'm going to see my naturopath today. She's going to get me some progesterone, more like a lower dose, because with bipolar, when you start playing in hormones, you can also trigger mania and stuff, which happened to me. So, but yeah, like big difference in how you, like, even wanting to be touched is different, how you feel, like it's different. Where do we begin with this little monster?
Well, first of all, it's talking about it like we are, because it's sort of one of those like words that like taboo. We're not supposed to talk about it. And if we look at it from a medical perspective, menopause wasn't even accurately written in the medical text until 1969, which really wasn't that long ago. And it still was like kind of skipped over, right? Yeah. So perimenopause, which is the stage before menopause, can start actually as early as 38. And so what does that mean? That means that our estrogen levels are starting to decline. Really, that's in simplistic forms. And then full on menopause is, when we're actually losing our period and we stop menstruating altogether. And everybody has a different age that is going to occur. And generally there is some hereditary factors that are there. But so what really happens from a sexuality standpoint? When we have a reduction in estrogen, we then have less blood flow to the genitals. And with a decrease in blood flow, we're going to start to get atrophy of the vagina and the thinning of the tissues. And when you have that occurring, there is less lubrication, there's less sensation, and you can get pain, right? Yeah. So what do we, and so that's what happens. So all of that then becomes lack of desire, right? We don't want to even be part of that. It's like, I just want to rest. I don't want to have any part of that. So the age-old term, if you don't use it, you lose it, which is absolutely the truth. So like the rest of our body, we have to stimulate our genitals. And how do we do that? We do it by activity, moving blood flow through our body. So health and well-being, movement, getting exercise, number one. Decreasing stress, because when we have an increase of cortisol, it's definitely going to impact our estrogen levels even more, right? Yeah. So stress reduction exercises. In terms of like the physicality with our genitals, masturbation is so important. So stimulation internally and externally of our genitals is key. And lube. Like life is better with lube.
What's the best lube? I mean,
the best lube is, and that's why everybody has to go onto my website. The best lube is designed by women in Victoria. It's a mom and daughter team, and it is specifically designed for aging parts. And it is a lube called Rich by Hathor. And if you go on my website, www.blissphoria.ca, you click on the pleasure button, it'll take you to the lube. And this is a water-based, plant-based lube. There's no silicone, and ladies, do not use silicone lubes on your body. They are harmful. Okay. They actually affect hormones even more. So you want to use a water-based lube. And this particular product has horny goat weed in it. It's kind of an interesting name. Horny goat weed.
Does it come from horny goats?
No, it's actually an herb, but horny goat weed stimulates blood flow. And it definitely helps with lubrication. A fantastic lube are lubes with cannabis sativa, so cannabis in it, so basically CBD, and that has the same effect. It helps to increase blood flow to the vaginal wall. And I just need to add that beyond using lube, it takes our vagina a minimum of 20 minutes to sweat, 20 minutes to get lubricated. So foreplay, it is your absolute best friend, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when your vagina is not ready and there is penetration there, it is going to cause micro tears in your vaginal wall. That's why there's pain. So we need to look after our parts.
So what's your stance? Yes. And what is your stance on coconut oil? Because it seems like that's what a lot of women are leaning towards. Why do something like what you're offering as opposed to a coconut oil, just so people can understand?
Yeah, you bet. So coconut oil is a natural oil. It's great. Keep in mind that when we use oils, we don't want to use any type of barriers with it. I'm an advocate for barriers for STI protection, but oils break down barriers, right? Condoms, dams, so forth. So that's when you won't want to use an oil. Now, coconut oil is just an oil. It's a natural oil, but it doesn't help to promote blood flow. It doesn't help to increase lubrication. You're basically, if you put an oil on something dry, it's going to absorb really quickly. It's not going to help promote lubrication. So realistically, if you're using any type of lube, you want a lube that's water-based, that's going to help increase blood flow, so you're going to be naturally lubricated.
So do you feel tingling when you put it on or anything like that? Or
some women do. Now with some of the products, especially the cannabis sativa based products, and there's one that I sell through Blissphoria, they add other natural products such as cinnamon, kava kava, black pepper, which are in essential oil format, and that's when you'll feel a bit of the heat and the tingling. But cannabis sativa on its own or horny goatweed on its own in a water-based format doesn't create heat. It just promotes blood flow.
Okay, so pretend you've got a partner and things have gotten a little stale and you want to can you just give a couple of tips on how you can get the party started again? Like get things going?
Okay, first of all, number one, I'm all for our sexual agency. So meaning that embodying and empowering ourselves as our own unique sexual beings. So self-pleasuring is hands down number one, right? Get to know your body, get a mirror, look at yourself and look at all of yourself. Get some great lubes, get a fantastic vibrator, really, really step up your game so you know your body. So now when you're with your partner, you can ask for what you want, the positions you like, what doesn't feel good. But using great products, so particularly when you use a cannabis sativa arousal oil or a lube, you want to put that in and on your body about 30 minutes before intercourse. And it actually helps prolong orgasm and just makes the overall experience better. But in addition, because
you also have the you said a fantastic vibrator. Do you sell those too or no?
So I on my Blissphoria site, I have a package that comes with the arousal oil, and it's a beautiful palm-sized vibrator. So it's a great combination.
What?
Yeah.
Valentine's is coming up, people.
Right?
Get on it, and you'll ship out, right?
Ship out.
Okay.
Yes, I sure do. Yes, I ship right across Canada.
Woo! Like, what happens if you're with somebody who is like maybe more wanting boring things, like just the same old, and you don't want to say too much to seem like you're too out there, but that's me. Mine's like, A, B, C, D, and E, same, A, B, C, D, and E, same. It's just like routino. What would you do with it, especially if it's on the men's side, it's a really
great question. And this is a conversation I have with a lot of women. So when you mix in our differences in hormones, boredom as well is one of the greatest libido killers out there, right? That I am so bored, I'm just putting up with it. It's so boring, I don't even want it anymore. Yeah. Okay. So number one, first I go back to our sexual agency. So we need to also look after ourselves, right? Yeah. Communication with our partners, right? Now, beyond the whole positioning and let's try new positions or let's spice something up, play is so important. And what I mean by that is that if we're not playful in a relationship, we're going to have a less desire to be playful sexually. So
Yes,
ramp it up outside the bedroom, right?
Okay.
Go do something fun, dress up, go do an adventure together, do a sport, try yoga, like do something that's going to bring you both joy and pleasure. And that's going to help build that connection piece, number one.
Yeah.
Because when we're doing play and connection, we're also creating trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to open a much greater platform for communication about our sexual needs and wants. And, you know, if one person doesn't want something, it doesn't mean we can't be creative and bring in fantasy. Fantasy is the greatest opportunity for us to have play in our head.
Yeah, for sure.
We can create the best environment through here, right?
I mean, I do it with my makeup looks. I just got to take it a little further, you know?
Totally. And that's our right. Like, and you look at kids, little kids, their whole world is about fantasy.
Yes,
and at some point in our adulthood, we were told like, oh, you shouldn't fantasize. No, it's like the healthiest thing ever. So get creative. Start reading erotica. Watch ethical porn. Buy some feathers and try some great massage oil and maybe listen to a sexy podcast and start getting your sexy on.
Oh, do you have this on the website?
Yeah.
Where do you get? You said something I never even heard of, which is ethical porn. What is that?
Okay, so ethical porn, first of all, is when those that are involved in the porn scene are treated equally. So it's not this, like a power dynamic. They're treated equally. They're being paid equally. You actually pay to watch them. It is sex positive, so meaning that it's consensual, number one. There's no ill harm or disrespect on those that are participating. And generally, it represents all size of body types and genders and sexuality.
Is that like a different kind of site or something, or does it have a stamp of something on it, like 2 equal bunnies or something like that?
So I mean, literally, you can Google ethical porn on Google, and there will give there's some on there that have had some issues and are a little has some controversy over, and so I invite people to do their own research by all means, and most of them for that part you can do it, like watch so many videos for free before you subscribe to their service. But yeah, I mean, if there's lots of articles out there on ethical porn and some suggestions on Google. But
so for you, I'm assuming are you married?
Yes, I am.
Yes, yeah. Well, he must love you, but
yes, thank you.
Do you ever find yourself, even with what you do, having to like work at it and do things like
totally. I mean, I'm feeling like everybody else. Sex is messy, right? And and that was one of the reasons I created Blissphoria is I wanted, I approach my practice from a therapeutic standpoint, helping people with their embodiment and healing. But there's more to it. And I realized that as I'm my hormones are really starting to fluctuate as well, despite the fact that, I can be super creative and I have a great sex life. There's times that I'm like, I need a little something more, right?
Yeah.
And so I started experimenting with CBD and for stress management, anxiety management, and also for arousal. And it's been life-changing for me. And so that's why I created Blissphoria.
Okay, well, this is just where I was going to go next. So tell me basically about Blissphoria. And I've heard the CBD thing, and with, me, I've heard it for pain levels, but I've never heard it for what you're talking about. So tell me a little more about that and what that's all about, what you've got on that.
So how I got about this, I really, first of all, women in the cannabis industry are very underrepresented, and particularly in Canada. And so I wanted to hand select products that are Canadian made by women. And it's particularly for women. So I've chosen companies right across Canada. They're all organic. They're licensed. They've gone through third-party testing, means that they've paid a lot of money to make sure that their products are of a standard set by Health Canada and that you're getting what you pay for. So that's number one. So with CBD is non-psychoactive. So THC is, CBD is not. And all my products are THC free, although I'm an advocate for THC as well. We have a system in our body called the endocannabinoid system, kind of a big word, but basically what the role of our endocannabinoid system is to maintain homeostasis. So when we are experiencing stress, hormonal imbalance, injury, inflammation, gut imbalance, any of those things, our endocannabinoid system is overworking, and the receptors are breaking down. So when we take CBD or internally, which is either by capsule form or by oil, we're helping our endocannabinoid system get back to functioning, back to homeostasis.
I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And it's not for everybody, but I know from myself and those that I've worked with, it's been really, really beneficial. And the key is with CBD is to find a product that works for you, but also to start super slow. And we call that microdosing. So it's very small amounts, a couple of times a day consistently over time.
Is it like tablets, oil? What is it?
There's tablets, but the best format is oil, because that gets into our blood system and it doesn't have to be digested through our GI tract. The thing is, if people do have some sensitivity with their gut, it's best to take any CBD products after 30 minutes after eating, so then you won't get a stomach upset.
And so oil meaning you rub it on somewhere?
No, so oil is in a tincture. You put it under your tongue.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Or an edible. You can take a gummy, like I have a little gummies here, and they're basically like, they're just like delicious little gummies, and for energy. So instead of drinking a cup of coffee in the afternoon, if I feel like I'm getting a bit of a low, I'll have half a gummy, and I'm on my game. I feel more creative, just more energy.
CBD's in the gummy, it's not sugar or anything?
No, these are sugar-free ones, and they're CBD, they're all natural. Yeah, they're basically fruit juice sweetened, and they're gluten-free as well. So
nice. So how does somebody start? Because like, if you're completely lost, you've not done CBD before, your sex life's in the toilet, you feel like hell, where do you start? How do you start?
You book a complimentary 30-minute discovery call with me, and that can be booked right on my Choices website, and it's like literally and that's also same on Blissphoria. There's a link to book a call for education and consult, which is no charge for that, and that's a great way to just get information. It's confidential. We talk about your goals, your struggles, and then what are some things and how I can support you.
Oh, wonderful. So just go on there, either website, get a hold of you, and you'll kind of walk somebody through, listen to their story a little bit and sort of be able to, prescribe in a way what they should be doing. And you also do like counseling-ish, like with couples as well, right?
I sure do. So my platform, I work with individuals and I work with couples, and that's a lot of the work I do with couples. And generally the dynamic with couples is that I offer, because coaching is a little different than counseling, I call it solution focused. So we're taking kind of where your situation is now and where do you want to get to? And then I provide the platform for them to do that. In a couple format, generally what I suggest with couples is that we meet individually first for 1 or 2 sessions, because each person's going to bring a different dynamic, right, into the relationship. And then we bring it back together. And it can be super successful.
That's smart, because, you're going to be a little more honest when we're one-on-one. I could tell you the scoop, and then so is he or she is going to also, right? Because then when you're together, you don't want to say anything to hurt the other person's feelings. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really smart to do it that way. Wow. This is just phenomenal. So I'm going to be obviously linking everything down below, but am I missing anything? We covered CBD because I really wanted to know what that does for you, because I've heard so much about it, but I've never tapped into it at all. But it sounds like there's different forms. Like you said, you've got gummies, you've got, and they might do different things, like each.
Totally do. They're going to have a different effect. And then, of course, we have the topicals, which are the lubes and the arousal oils and the massage oils, and also products for pain care. So, and then just a note, if we are suffering from any type of menstrual cramps or vaginismus or vulvodynia or any of those things, like sexual health related, that is going to prevent us from feeling pleasure.
What is vulvodynia?
Vulvodynia is when we basically have a contraction of our vulva sort of spontaneously, and it can cause a lot of pain.
Okay.
And there's many different reasons for that. It can be trauma related, emotional, and so forth. But what happens when we use CBD topically is that it can start to relax our pelvic floor, right?
Yeah.
And relaxing our pelvic floor, in addition to increasing blood flow, it's going to be more pleasurable, right?
Nice.
Than getting everything constricted.
So where would you like your business to go? Where are your dreams? Where are things going to grow for you? What do you think the future?
I love it. Thank you. So ideally, I want to, and I do offer workshops as well. I want to continue offering a lot more workshops. And when we get back, like through COVID, I'm going to be definitely bringing on a lot more in-person workshops. And my dream is to do retreats. Ideally, like in Costa Rica or Mexico. I'd like to do couples retreats. So that's my goal. And but just to continue to serve people. My client base is all over North America right now, and I really like to include that more. But most importantly, also getting proper education out there, because that's the key, particularly about CBD. There's a lot of inaccurate information. So just informing people properly and providing them with really accurate resources that they can continue to grow and thrive.
I think that we need new Dr. Ruth taking over the airways. Why not that too?
You know what? That I would love to have my own podcast. So there you go.
Yes. I mean, I would love to have you back and talk about like specific things, and we could even do a Zoom with somebody and kind of sort of have a couple come on and talk about what's going on with them, and maybe you could sort of show what like some advice would look like, and just continue.
I love it. Let's do it. Yes.
I think you totally could. You know, Dr. Ruth, but you kind of got a little bit of her hair in the younger days. Like with that, you could be the total takeover.
Just don't have the accent.
Yeah, you could. Okay, so you have something coming up, right, Corinne?
Okay,
tell me about it.
Okay, are we on now or okay?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, I have a really juicy talk coming up, and so I invite everybody to come on board. It's next Wednesday night, so January 18th. Oh, yes. No, sorry. 13th. January 13th at 8 o'clock by Zoom. There's no cost involved, and it's all about orgasms. So why we have them, why we don't, and how to increase pleasure. So it's a 1 hour talk. So come on board.
Oh my gosh. Now, is there a link, or how do they get that?
Yeah. So they'll have to pre-register. There'll be a Zoom link that I can send you. Okay. And they just have to sign up through Zoom. The Zoom link, it's a confidential link, and then come on board.
So when they go on Zoom, are you going to have everyone's face on there looking at them, or is it just you? You know how
well, they can, whatever they feel most comfortable with, right? Okay. If they don't want to show their face, they don't have to at all. Okay. And that's entirely up to them. I always support their own embodiment, right? And their own feeling of agency. So, but it's really for them to come on board. If they want to ask questions, they're free to do so. And it's super fun and entertaining.
I'm booking in. So I'm booking in. So if you guys want to come and hang out with me on this little 8 o'clock, chat, I mean, I could tape the housewives and come do this, this little, how long is it for? Like
it's 1 hour, 8 to 9.
Woo! That'll be a hot night, evening. You guys need a little refresh.
Spice it up, right?
Spice it up. Yes. Okay. So I'm definitely going to have to go in and register for that, so that, and I'll tell all of my friends too to get on there and
love it. I love it. I look forward to seeing you there.
Going.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyways, it's been so awesome. Am I missing anything? Did we cover everything?
No, not at all. It was so awesome to be here today too. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think you're going to be getting some messages coming from
I hope so. Bring them on. Bring them on.
Bring them on. Well, thank you so much. So just hang on, but we'll say goodbye to everybody else. Thank you so much, Corinne. All right. Bye, everybody.